our channel. Today we're going to be installing the Flowmaster Delta Force intake on the Mojito Jeep. So we were going to show you how to put the air box together, but as we were opening the box and taking out the parts, we realized that the rubber gasket was not on the product, and it was just one strip. It was plenty for what we needed it for, but as you're putting on this rubber gasket, you're really going to need a little bit of a heat gun to be able to mold into these more difficult areas. You're also going to need something to cut it with when you are making your cuts here, and to cut it so that you can finish this piece off. So I think as anyone would feel when you opened up the package and had to put this on, we were a little disgruntled, and James spent over an hour molding this to each part. It just would have been nice if this was already on there when we got the product and we didn't have to do that extra step. Besides the heat gun and some basic tools, you're gonna wanna make sure you have some good snips and the thread tape for your intake tube.
So I've installed probably, I don't know, somewhere 20 to 30 cold air intakes onto different vehicles over the years, and usually they go pretty quick and easy. This one has already been kind of a pain just in the assembly with this gasket, as you have seen. They give you a one length of this rubber gasket to put around the housing for the air filter setup, and I'll just say it's been kind of a pain in the ass. It doesn't go on super easy. It's one length, so you have to run it, press it on, and then cut it. Seems like something that they could have done for you and just provided it like this. There's no reason for packaging purposes that this couldn't already be on and assembled. I've never seen one come like that. I'm going to show a little bit more of the assembly process than I expected, just because it is a little bit more tedious than anticipated. Okay, so we're gonna attach the filter adapter onto the air box. You can see there's some threaded holes in here. And then what we're gonna take is from the provided screws, it's the smaller ones with a tiny lock washer and then a flat washer as well. And what's going to happen is the filter adapter is going to go through, and we're going to take the screw from the outside of the air box and thread it on into the threads on the filter adapter. Next, we need to put the brackets on the bottom side of the air box. That's where it's going to kind of sit in the Jeep. I flipped this over, this is the bottom side. We're going to take the screws up from the bottom inside the air box, and then we're going to put the washers and nuts on the outside. And then the nut is going to go on the outside here. And we're going to do that 4 times, so 2 for each bracket. So now I just need to tighten these down. So next you need to take these mounts for the bottom of the intake air box here, and you're gonna grab 2 of the screws with a flat washer and a lock washer, and those are gonna come down from the top, and you're gonna thread this mount on from the bottom. Get them nice and tight, and then you'll go ahead and snug them down. Tighten them up and you're good. Next up is to grab the Flowmaster intake tube. You can see it right here. It says Flowmaster on it. You'll see that there's a little opening here, and they provided a rubber grommet, so this does need to be installed into the tube. It does say that you may want to use some soapy water, might make it easier. Obviously I'm trying it without it. Seems like it's going in fairly easy, so you just kind of work it around the circle, and you want to just make sure you get it all the way through and on there nicely, nice and round. You can see it's still a little bit out of round, so I'm going to keep working it until I get it perfect in the circle here. So next up we need to install the quick connect fitting into the threaded spot of the intake tube here. What I was not prepared for, luckily I did have some, was some thread tape. So it says to do 2 wraps of it around. Luckily I did have some, so make sure you pick up a little bit of this before you start this project. I'm going to just go ahead and wrap a little bit of this around the threads here. Like I said, the instructions call for 2 wraps, and then I'm just going to thread this into the intake tube here. Next up, we're going to take the reducing coupler here. You can see it's a little bigger on one end than the other, and I've already attached the hose clamps, or the clamps on either end of it. One of the clamps is a little larger than the other because obviously it's smaller size, smaller diameter on one side than the other. So make sure you get the correct ones. And then this is going to go on the filter end of the intake tube. So we're just gonna slide it over. It takes a little working to get it around. You'll get it on there, and then you're gonna take your clamp it down nice and tight. And when I get it in there, I'll probably orient it a little better. The fastener end of the clamp, I like to hide those where you can still access them easily, but so they're not as noticeable. Now on the other end of the intake tube here, this is gonna be the part that goes into the engine end, is you're gonna take the elbow. I've already grabbed another one of the hose clamps, slid that over the end. I'm gonna take the elbow, just kind of work it over, and just like that, it's set. And then I'll just lightly tighten it down so that when I get it on the vehicle, I can adjust everything.
As with any engine install, you're gonna wanna start with disconnecting your battery. So we already disconnected the negative. First thing we're gonna do is grab our ratchet and 10mm socket to remove the 3 intake bolts that secure the intake into the engine. Next, we're going to disconnect the PCV line. You're gonna squeeze this tab right here and give it a good yank. Just like that. The air temperature sensor is next. It has another one of these tabs you just squeeze and you pull out. Next, we're gonna remove the 3-wire loom clamps from the resonator. This 3rd wire loom clamp is gonna be a little tricky, but I think I can get to it. Grab your ratchet and your 8mm socket so you can release and loosen this clamp on the throttle body. All right, I'm removing the air temperature sensor. You have to be very careful. As we all know, these are very delicate. It looks like there's a tab here that I'm gonna gently lift with this flathead, and then you wanna lift it and turn it counterclockwise. Flowmaster stated that it would be 1/4 of a turn, but as you can see, this is the notch that you have to kinda like get over, and it's really not 1/4 of a turn because it'd be right here. So just so you know, you stop a little bit shy of 1/4 of a turn, probably 1/8 of a turn, and then you just pull it out, and there you have it. Next, we're going to remove this green O-ring from the center of the sensor. After you take the factory airbox out, if you notice that the rubber grommets came out, you're gonna have to remove these from here and put them back. Locate the bracket here by the battery, and this 10mm bolt, you're gonna take your ratchet, you're going to loosen that bolt. You're going to take your air temperature sensor that you took off from the factory air filter. You're gonna place it here. You wanna make sure this notch faces the direction of the air box. So I'm just gonna put it in and work it in. Be sure the grommet piece that had the rubber gasket on it, that green piece you took off, is inside the tube, as so. So James and I have been fighting to put this air box in. It's just not working. We were afraid this intake isn't for our model, but thanks to Jeep Daisy, she showed us that there's one step that's done in these directions, which is to take out the grill and the headlights. So there's 6 push tabs on top of the grill. We're gonna take this flathead, and we're gonna pop them out. There's 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's so alarming. Okay. Yeah. Get your ratchet again with your 10mm socket. We're gonna take these off. Loosen these up right here. These 3 to get this headlight out. And I noticed there's a clip here. I'm just gonna pull this clip out. And I'm gonna double check, and there's nothing else attached. Now we are ready to install the airbox. So again, we took the grill off and we removed the headlamp to make it easier for this to slide in. Oh gosh, yeah, this is much easier. All right, as we're lowering the airbox in, we wanna make sure this part that we took out of the headlamp is free and clear and out of the way of all this. So we pulled it through. I'm gonna set it aside here. Next, you're going to take this screw. There's a lock washer and a regular washer on it. And then you're gonna take this spacer as well. First, you're gonna put the screw through this hole. And on the other side, you probably guessed it, I'm gonna put the spacer in. This should go to this hole. When you first start doing this, be sure to push down here so that you can line up the holes easily, and then you'll have no problem screwing this in. All right, time for the filter. All right, I have my ratchet, my handy dandy ratchet again. 8mm socket so we can tighten this clamp down on our air filter. Now we're ready to install the air intake tube. I'm gonna take this end, place it right here close to the air filter. So we're putting the tube on just like this, and you want it all the way tight, just like that, snug up against that air box. As you may have guessed it, this end of the tube goes to the throttle body. There we go. All right, now that it's secure, we're able to pop some of these things we took off back. We're putting the PCV back in. So we have this extender cord that we're gonna use in order to get this piece to the air temperature sensor. Slide it in like this. I'm gonna go underneath, pull this through, and attach this to my air temperature sensor. So the temperature sensor wire was coming up this way, and we decided to tuck it under here. And then we are gonna use one of the provided zip ties and zip tie it right here, and we feel like it gives it a clean location. This is the last step for the intake, but obviously we're gonna have to put the headlight back in and put the grill back on. So we're just taking this screw, a lock washer and a regular washer, and we're putting this lid on. All right, we're gonna put this back in. Don't forget to insert your connector. Slide it in gently. And there you have it, a full install for the Flowmaster Delta Force intake. There are a couple of parts that were a little tricky for us. One being the air sensor, taking that out, just a little tricky. And then fitting this in, but thanks to Jeep Daisy, we were able to see that all we needed to do was pop this grill out and this headlamp, and it was easily fit into place. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our channel, make sure you like this video, and please comment below. Grab your ratchet and your 8mm socket,
Soccer? Soccer mom? Is this your soccer mom car?
Yeah. I don't even, that's like the only sport I never played. And I'm not a mom, except to these lovely cars.